talking about a lot of money here. You're talking about, this is the type of money that can impact your lifestyle. Now, the question is, what is Drew Peterson's life like if he divorces Kathleen Savio versus if she just dies like she did? Let me bring in an expert in all these matters. Randy Kessler is his name, great family law attorney, joining us here in studio. Here's the simple question. What's the difference between Drew Peterson's life as a man who is fully divorced from Kathleen Savio versus a man who, before that divorce is finalized, the financial aspect, she passes away?
Well, obviously, it depends on how she passes away. It's a lot different.
Well, we're not talking about murder here. We're talking about she
right.
accidentally drowns in the pool, and not in the pool, in the bathtub.
Death gets rid of divorce. You don't need a divorce, so everything stays as if they were married, whether they hated each other, loved each other, had filed for divorce, had not filed for divorce. If you or your wife dies, then you look at the will. You don't look at what the divorce proceeding said. You say, what did the will say about people that were married? And so it's governed by the will instead of by the judge. If he murdered her to make it look like an accident, then the assets would have been divided or distributed according to the will, not according to the court.
So is he better off or worse off? And if so, how much better off?
Well, he's apparently better off if he's not accused of murder and sent in jail for murder, of course.
We're all assuming here he didn't murder her. It was just a tragedy here. So how much better off is he?
Well, it depends on what the final result would have been. But, you know, everyone could see what was coming. The judge had given her the kids, had said she's going to get more assets. I think he knew, and everybody knew, he was not going to get very much. But that's why judges do this sometimes. They say, let's set the trial on that issue down the road, and I'm going to telegraph what's coming. She's getting the kids, she's getting assets. You try to work it out, knowing that I'm probably going to give her the most of the things. You can pick and choose what you want, and you can do it with a scalpel, or I'll do it with a butcher knife or a cleaver, and then you'll just get whatever I decide. The point is, you resolve it yourselves peacefully.
Yeah. Well, let's try to break some of this down. We've got Drew Peterson's money here. Life insurance policies listed on Peterson's 1997 handwritten will. 3 policies totaling over $500,000. How does that play into all this?
I mean, it gives you, you're talking about motive. And is this motive? Well, I know the prosecution doesn't have to prove motive, but the jury wants to know.
You got to have motive in this case. You absolutely have to.
And I think that's all this does. It says motive. And, I don't think it's so much that he wanted to have a better life. I think he knew what was coming, and he wanted to deprive her of that victory. I mean, this guy, if he's as portrayed, has some real issues, and he wants to be perceived as he doesn't want to lose. He'd already lost custody. He was going to lose the assets. This was going to be the final loss for him, and he got to avoid the loss by never having to play the game. Also, $1 million policy not listed on Peterson's will. Savio changed the policy to list a couple sons as beneficiaries. Money is now in trust for the sons. All right, let's talk about Drew Peterson's money. Real estate and vehicles listed on Peterson's 1997 handwritten will. 2 houses, 1 in Bolingbrook, 1 in Montgomery. 2 vehicles, 1993 Ford van, 1992 Nissan Pathfinder. Again, this is stuff that would be divided, right? You divide up assets. Isn't that what we always hear in divorces? You know what? The ex gets half. Well, I mean, there are all sorts of variances. Right, but we hear that a lot, that you're going to be entitled to this. I mean, judge could very well hand off half of your stuff. You could do that. I mean, you talk about 50-50. A lot of times people say she gets the house, he gets the house payment, and that's what this one was going to be. She gets the cars, he gets the car payment. He was not going to get half, according to the way it looked, and from my perspective. Welcome back to In Session on Vinnie Politan. Was money the motive for murder in the Drew Peterson case? He is so much better off, you've just heard our experts, with Kathleen Savio dying than he would have been if it was a divorce. But what do you think? 877 Juror 13. Let's go first to Illinois and Doreen. Good afternoon, Doreen.
Hi, Vinnie. I just want to say that money is the total motive, the absolute motive, and I also want to say rage played a part in it. I could easily see her being kicked by him and stomped by him, and him saying to her, there's no way you're getting half my pension, there's no way you're getting my kids, and I could just see rage and money being the motive.
Doreen, thanks so much. Randy Kessler, I want to go to you on this. These things are contentious. People always say, oh, Vinnie, you worked in the criminal court system. That must have been dangerous. I said, not half as dangerous as working in the family law, right? No because question. It becomes personal because it's about emotion. It's about money. Money, rage, like she said, but it's also about ego and control. And when you sit in a courtroom, and if it's a murder trial, well, the event happened years ago, but if it's a divorce and a custody battle and the judge says, tomorrow you don't get to see your kids, what? You're telling me when I get to see my kids, which house I can live in, which car I can drive. Somebody else is now taking control of my life. That's what he wanted to avoid, in my opinion.
He wanted to
That's
avoid.
a great point. The murders, that happened 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And I think criminals understand that prosecutors are just doing their job. But in the family law, everything becomes personal.